Thank you very much. Dr. El-Kati has agreed to take some questions. Does anyone have any questions and comments? I thought that you wouldn't be shy. Yeah.
I just want to say thank you for what you said. It's something I think we all need to hear and be reminded of. You were very eloquent in doing so.
Yes, Ms. Kennedy.
So I didn't have any conversations around the community about unchecking the box and how we've been instructed to believe that we need to check the black and white, and how you just eloquently told us and confirmed what I have been trying to tell people. I would rather know about what your race is or your culture and your heritage. And I would like for myself to be allowed to express how I'm an African American woman and not just black. And so I propose everybody begin to uncheck the box and see our cultures and heritages and see each other and let's have conversations about that and how we come together.
Well, that's a good way to do it. I do something similar, I think, when I run into these things about their race and that kind of stuff. Here, I put, and I might end up in jail someday for doing this, but I scratch that stuff out. I identify myself as a black or African person, it doesn't matter. But next to that, in big letters, I put human. You do? Human. That.
Nathan?
Yeah, first, just want to say thank you again. I'm wondering if you can speak a little more to also what I heard you talk about the paradox, right? You talked about the importance of stopping white supremacy.
Yeah. See, let's learn to say that word.
White supremacy, right.
Oh, you can say WS if you want. You can say it out loud.
All right, so with white supremacy, right? So there's a paradox of seeing each other as human first, right? As you talk about. But also then, I think about my upbringing and sort of being taught to be colorblind.
Yeah.
But not seeing, and then not seeing the political reality. It's in front of me, so it's like I can say, all right, so we all see each other as human, and then I treat you well, you treat me well, we're good, right? So I'm wondering if you could speak to that. That's always my worry with white folks saying, all right, so we get to sit back now, we see people as humans, and it's all good, right? And we still get white supremacy because it generates within us to the top. I'm wondering if you could speak to that.
Colorblind.
Yeah.
Post-racial.
Right.
That's evasive language.
Right.
That can speak to it. You see me, you tell me, I don't see color. Well, you don't see me if you don't see color. You're out of your mind. That's got to be challenged. We're creating another evasive language around post-racial, colorblind, all of this. Even multicultural to some extent takes it away from the fundamental question of what we call race in this country. And race is the source of the American problem. It's the source of what corrupts the soul. Because there are no races in any pure sense of the word. But we believe it. That's what makes it a myth. A myth is not a fairy tale that you tell 9-year-old children. It is some truth, some fact is grounded in myth. And you can take one thing like my skin color and extrapolate from that all kinds of stuff that are not true. That's myth. People have national myths like that. Everybody has myths in their culture. Americans happen to be chained to something called white supremacy, which most of us are afraid to say. When you say Nazi, you talk about not white supremacy. When you talk about skinheads, you talk about white supremacy in action. When you talk about the well-educated 21-year-old Yale graduate who draw a line through my name at the bank so I won't get along, he's white supremacist. It's not all overt. Most white supremacy is practiced covertly. That's Americans are the only people who try to hide from themselves. How can you do that? That's what it's confused us about what it means to be a human being. I see another hand back there.
I
Yes.
just wanted to ask if those who ask a question or make a comment would have a microphone so we can hear.
That too. Well, that's not my department.
I'll run it back and forth, how about that?
Okay.
Now, is there another question, another comment? Yeah, no, I can run also around. So. Over here, over here. Okay. Have a good one, brother.
Hi, thank you. I'm Melissa. I'm an educator here in the district, and we've been instructed post-election to be both positive and neutral in our roles in front of the children. I haven't been the first one. No, I mean, to be honest, my students, particularly of color, are openly grieving, and there's a lot of negative emotion, including anger and sadness and fear that they're dealing with, and I kind of want to sit in the ashes with them and be open with them. And then the neutrality thing, everyone's entitled to your opinion, unless you deny someone's basic human dignity. Like if your opinion is racist, if you don't get to have that opinion, you don't get to have it openly in my classroom. So my question is twofold to you. What are the roles of emotion and neutrality? Like where would those fit in as educators in front of the children? How can we not be angry about this Trail of Tears 2 type stuff? How can we not be calling that out? I'm stuck. I am.
Well, I say the question and statement is a rather complex one.
Yeah.
And it's not easy to answer that. I'd have to sit down and chat with you
Yes, let's do
over
that.
time to come up with a meaningful response, because it's too, it's too mixed up. Saying too many things at one time. So I can't answer that because I'm not an expert. The expert is somebody who knows everything about one thing and something about everything else. I'm not in that category. Yes.
I think we can teach our schools about the history of Christian terrorists, about the Ku Klux Klan and lynching.
Of course.
It's not happening.
Yeah, well, you have to explain terrorism. That's something that this juncture, because we're a very immature country on certain levels, particularly on morality. We have to, as far as education is concerned, deal with the question that our children are largely being trained, not educated. White children are not being educated. If a white person grows up in this country, an intelligent, normal white person, and don't know anything about me, except me as a personal friend, but my people, my mother, and so forth, you're not educated. You got to know something about Native Americans. You got to know something about black people, because they were here since the beginning. Even George Bush acknowledged that. At one Black History ceremony, he said, you got to, it's black people who've been here since the beginning. They are the ones who drew the words from the abstract and put them on the ground, talking about the Constitution, putting the 13th, 14th, and 15th Amendments for public discussion. That's what the Civil Rights Movement was. It's about the 13th, 14th, and 15th Amendment, about the government honoring what it wrote, that all persons are born or naturalized as citizens of the United States and the state wherein they reside. No state shall make or enforce any law which shall abridge the privileges of the citizens of the United States of America. The Civil Rights Movement was about a constitutional struggle. That's what Barry Goldwater was saying. The Civil Rights Act, enabling legislation of the 14th Amendment, was of the Constitution. And he had, it's directly tied to Trump. That's where this movement started. And then you find some old out-of-work movie star named Ronald Reagan I know he's a hero to a lot of people, but he's not. And you know he's not. He's a two-bit actor. Not like Jimmy Stewart, They're the actors. Real actors. What I'm talking about, nobody even remember him. You know what you remember from Reagan? He was a pitchman for general election. And he could do it. At General Electric, progress is our most important progress. Our product is it. And he could say that real good. But he was no hero. Incidentally, it's the thing about my wife, one of my dearest friends, uncle, was his roommate at Eureka College. This sounds, he played football together. And when you press him against the wall, he'd bring out his black buddies. But it ain't about individuals. It ain't about your friendship with somebody. That's personal. Racism is a political, not a human reality. It determines who gets what, when and how much. That's what it is. Some of my best friends are white. But white supremacy is not. If he's with me, you know I can talk about anything freely. You're not going to silence me. Because you know I can't be your friend if I can't talk about the condition of my people. We can't have friends. We can't have friendship. You're not my friend, and I don't want to be around you. Right? I can't mention the truth because you're scared to death. Everybody can grow up now and again, in the realm of ideas and beliefs and values. The one great thing about being human is human beings can change. They can change their lives. They can change what they believe. They can change what they think. They can change what they know. I don't know of any other animal in the kingdom that can do that. I've witnessed that change. We don't want to get into motives. I said earlier about the story of the ragged, racist, criminal segregationist named George C. Wallace, who was the governor of Alabama during the height of the Civil Rights Movement. George Wallace was the last public official I heard, that I remember, on national television called black people niggers. You're sick. Because that's what was accepted. When he got elected in 1962, he made this marvelous white supremacy speech, about the government, infringing upon the rights of the people of Alabama. And I throw the gauntlet down to the ground before the feet of tyranny. Say segregation now, segregation tomorrow, segregation forever. That's a white supremacy statement. I'm going down to the ground. I will fight the United States of America, his army, if he tries to get me not to believe that white people are superior to blacks. What happened? That's in 63. What happened? In 64, 65, the Civil Rights Act, voting in 65, and the Act, Public Accommodation Act in 64, which allowed black people to share free public space with white people. Isn't that crazy? Yeah, and by the time he ran his third campaign, he ran twice. He couldn't do it consecutively. His wife, Lurleen, stood in for him and practiced the same policy. But by that time, the country had changed. And still black people voting. Alabama was 1/3 black. And they voted in the next election. And guess what? When you find the same George Wallace in about 1968, 69, before 60,000 people in Birmingham, Alabama, kissing, get this, the black homecoming queen on the cheek. What is that about? It's about power. He changed the dynamics of power. He's the same racist, but he's got common sense. I can't do that anymore. Jimmy Baldwin taught me to say, the only thing that white people have, that black people need, and should want, is power. That's what it is. It's about power. It's about power and control. Wherever you find a shared power relationship, you will find the absence of conflict, such as exists for the most part among white people today. When they didn't share power, what were they doing? Murdering one another. French, English, had 100 Years' War. Have you ever heard of that? had a war here, 7 years war, brought it over here and made it the French-Indian War, involved the Indian in something that people were doing in Europe. You know, there's a bloodshed among Europeans. And black people, you know, in some peculiar way, helped to make them white because of our presence. It's a contrast. It's that, you know, the contradiction, the extremes. You know, we're white, the lightest race, we're dark, Africans, the darkest race. And they use black people like that to make themselves white. I got a wonderful book written by a man who explains this. It's called How the Irish Became White. Now there is another book as to how the Jews became white. Yeah, it's written by Tom Hayden, one of Jane Fonda's many husbands. You know, he wrote a book with his Irish background. You're not white, I'm Irish. St. Patrick's Day is not white, it's Irish. It's not English. But you got that ideology pumped in through the school system, which is the first step to racism outside of the home, is the public school system. The curriculum of the public school system teaches all the children white supremacy. That's what it is. And that's why white black children see themselves. They don't see themselves in the curriculum because they have no historical imagination. They can't see Prince Whipple standing beside George Washington. But he was there, crossing the Delaware, a black man. But the black child can't see that. It blocked him out. He can't see Christmas Sabbath at the Boston Massacre. All he knows is the British are coming to Paul Revere, and that might not be true. See, he robbed the child, the black child, of historical imagination. I can't imagine myself beyond the ghetto. I can't imagine being anywhere else. Because I wasn't a part of this. I wasn't in the Civil War. I didn't fight 447 battles. I didn't win 22 Congressional Medals of Honor. That's a fact, that's true. But it's not in the book. And no teacher who is well trained in American education knows a damn thing about it. I taught at a teacher's college as an adjunct professor for about 4 years, trying to teach it. It was just scary to see how blank and ignorant white supremacy has made normally intelligent people who would be normally intelligent. Just ignorant. They didn't know anything about black people except what's presented on television and the stereotypes that you get since time immemorial about them always being dumb, always being criminal, always doing something bad, something sins of the flesh and so forth. Black people don't go to college. As bad as it is right now, there are a million black people in colleges and universities and community schools. So as we speak, I'm not bragging about that, but people say, no, that can't be true. You know, they don't go to college. You know, what are you talking about? They don't struggle. They don't go to church. The black population has a high percentage of churchgoers and whites in this country. In Europe, they're honest about it. Only 15% of the people go to church in Europe. Only 15% in Western Europe. I'm talking about Eastern Europe. There's 15% churchgoers. Most couples with babies, with children in Sweden don't marry. What do you do with that? They're white. I think that's enough. What do you do? These are the kind of questions that need to come up like make you think. If you're half of a human being, the way you learn stuff is from people who are opposite of you in their thinking. That causes what King called creative tension, which makes you smarter. You got to go somewhere else besides what you know, because you know some people know things that you don't know. And what the white thing means, and again, you can't overstate this. What the white man meant when he said manifest destiny, when he said manifest destiny here, the white man's burden in India, city on the hill, American exceptionalism, all that is akin to white supremacy. That's all. It's just restated the same thing. We are the king of the world. We are the queen. Wherever there's a white man, he's in charge. Even in Africa, they made up a myth about Tarzan that people believe. Tarzan was made up by a man named Edgar Rice Burroughs, a rich white man, out of work, didn't have anything to do, so he made up Tarzan in the funny book. And then comes the movies and so forth. So people believe there's a real Tarzan. People believe that there's lions and jungles all over Africa. Very little of the land in Africa is jungle, only 13% of it is jungle. Lions, I don't think anybody told you this, don't live in jungles. They live on plains. Now people who know this besides me, what are you talking about? Tarzan, Superman, Batman, what's the other one? The guy on the blind wall, so forth, Spider-Man. Here's what white people need to get in their heads. There are no superhumans on this earth. There are no superhumans on this earth, of any color. Young man? No, you give it a mic.
I would like to know what you think about the black policemen or the white policemen shootings of the black people.
The white policeman has the...
Shoot black people.
Well, he's doing his job. That's what policemen are supposed to do. What do you think? This is all over again. This is what the paddy wagons, this is what the slave catcher, this is what it's always been. That's the first police force on a slave plantation. The job of a policeman is to protect the social order, whatever it is. It's called law and order in Germany and by the president. The policeman does what he's hired to do. To keep the social order intact. He is hired to do the dirty work. He's no worse than those people who sit idly by and fold their arms like they work watching a circus or something. He's not the cause of that. He's not. He's the symptom. That's what I'm supposed to do. I'm carrying out the law. And I'm supposed to kill him. And because of all this stuff is in my head, it makes it compulsive. That's what racism does. It makes behavior compulsive. When a young man was shot in Chicago 16 times, and he was dead before he hit the ground. And the guy still stood up and kept unloading his gun. That's compulsive behavior. He's already, that's white supremacy. He's been taught to hate. Nobody's born hating. Nobody's born hating other human beings. Those characteristics are acquired from culture, from home, from institutions like churches who use the Bible to support slavery. It said, I'll give you one. The power of racism, black people do silly things about it. When I was in college, I had a best buddy. He's a real smart guy. I don't know why I was hanging around with him. And he was real smart. He lived on the beam list. But we were good buddies. And we were getting these little arguments. And I don't know, I was taking a religious course, world religion course, and somebody got down to religion. And then he said to me, and it shocked me, he said, the truth is, black people are treated the way they're treated because we are the children of Ham. And God cursed us. That's classic white supremacy talk. Classic. The last time I ever heard that come from the governor of Mississippi. His name was Ross Barnett. When an interviewer asked him, why do you treat black people the way you do? He said, we're not doing anything wrong. We're following God's order. They sin. You remember Noah's son laughed at his father, and he's the cause of that. And then it is in the Bible. It said, "Thou shalt serve," or be the curse of the children of Ham who are cursed by God. The thing, when I first read that and thought, beyond it, that thing, if Noah had 3 sons, Japheth, Shem, and Ham, and the Lord cursed Ham, what color were they, generally speaking? What is white? Was it all white family? Or was it an integrated family? What is this? What is it? No, he pointed at Ham, and immediately, I guess Ham just turned black. This is crazy. That's how you explain that they're cursed. Now, my friend and he was, a dear friend, we lost friendship for about a month. He said, "I don't care, it's not, I'm not going to hang with you." And you believe that nonsense that come out of the Bible of white supremacy. I'm not going to be friendly with you. Just like a white person. I would say, I'm not going to be friends with you if I can't mention black people. And you flinch when you mention their name and so forth. And you look something, what's wrong with you? That's white supremacy making you behave that way. And you need to free yourself from that, because first and foremost, you are a human being. Nature and God affirms that. It doesn't affirm any race. We believe that. I know I'm going uphill. About talking like this. I feel like Sisyphus. The myth of the Greeks. I feel like Sisyphus. We went up the hill, and I got up the top of the hill, got out there, and the rock rolls down, and I got to go back, pushing up the hill again. That's what the black struggle looks like. The myth of Sisyphus. We're always doing something to make things better, and then set it back. We're going to erase this, get rid of that, so forth. We had rights for, let me just say this, 12-year period, most historians agree, was a period of Reconstruction. These 4.5 million slaves did a wonderful thing for America. Once they were allowed to vote, serve in public office, 22 of them went to Congress, had 2 senators. They passed the kind of progressive legislation. They were behind most of it. It was more progressive, all things considered, than the laws that we passed in the 60s. They're the ones who brought the public school system to the South. Black legislators led the charge. They're the ones who brought welfare programs that served all of the population. They're the ones who gave women the right to own property in the South. It's the black legislators who led that charge. That's why I'm so proud to be black. Now people don't like that. So you're proud, you must not like white people. I'm so